me in the Muni, where the party at? Dog pound, turn up with the elf up on my starter cap. Brought him back, boy, we from the land and we proud of that. Louder man, front to the back, here we go, I got him shouting that. Here we go, brownies. Here we go. Here we go, brownies. Here we go, brownies. Here we go, brownies. Let's go. Game on the line, Joe Thomas, I promise. Jim Brown running through opponents, how I got this. I return like Josh Cripps. Paying for the mini, got the dog pound jumping. Here we go, brownies. Here we go. Here we go, brownies. Here we go, brownies. Stand up. Here we go, brownies. Let's go.
Cleveland! This is for you! This is for you!
Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of the Here We Go Brownies podcast. Can't talk already. I'm Allie Ellery, coming at you live from Pensacola, Florida. Joined with me, as always, out in Cleveland, Ohio. We've got Dustin. Dustin, what's going on? How are we living?
Well, it is beautiful. Beautiful Cleveland, Ohio. Tonight. It is 70 degrees today. Like, hey, this is the first really nice, like, consistent week we're going to have all the way into the weekend. Tough game last night to watch as a Cavs Cleveland fan. Ugh. We'll probably talk a little bit about that.
I want to talk a little bit about that. And actually, when we bring David on, he's going to talk a little bit about the injuries to the Cavs players. I think that's relevant. So we're going to talk a little bit of that tonight.
I agree. That is very, very timely and very topical.
Brutal.
Yeah, so that was, the city and I made a post. I think the refs had a lot to do with this game, but there's something that to be said, and we can debate this, but first it was the Knicks and now it's the Pacers, and kind of the comment about the Cavs guys, are they physically tough enough to go against these kind of teams that kind of punch at us? And I thought that was really interesting, that that's kind of what's been told about the Cavs in the league among other teams. And I think that's an interesting take, that maybe we aren't, and maybe it's time to punch back, because I feel like that we got a little physically outmanned in that game.
Well, that has been somewhat of the theme for the Cavs this season. Unfortunately, there have been stretches where the Cavs haven't been as physical as some of their opponents. But then there have been stretches where they're overly physical. So it comes in waves. And I think that one thing that we are seeing throughout the playoffs so far, just as a whole, is they're a little bit more physical. The refs are allowing more physicality than what we've seen in the regular season. But also, so many people have seen on social media are like, Cavs are cooked. They're soft. These players, Evan Mobley, Darius Garland, DeAndre Hunter, they all should have played. Like Michael Jordan would have played. That's why I want to talk, with David about some of these injuries. As fans, we don't know about the extent of the injuries. I mean, if we're going to point fingers, sure, you can have Donovan Mitchell go out there and drop 40 plus on you, almost 50 points in a game. You can have Max Strus throwing it down. You can have that. But what you can't have is Ty Jerome, who has been consistent for you all year long, have 2 points in a playoff game.
That's true.
Man, that is tough for somebody that can generate a ton of offense. And last night was a defensive liability and offensive liability, and just got terrified out there.
Yeah.
You're not going to win. He makes one more shot, the Cavs win that game.
Well, we had a 16-point lead. I mean, at one point. Maybe even 18.
Well, they could not inbound the ball. I know that was a tough loss. But if you're optimistic about anything going into this next game on Friday, one thing that the Cavs have shown all season long is their ability to bounce back. Now I know they're down 2. That really sucks, but their ability to bounce back in a big way. And even though the Cavs have lost these past 2 games, I still think that they are the better team. They have more depth. They just have Ty Jerome's got to step up. Guys like that. Sam Merrill has to step up, and he did last night. But consistently, we need more offensive production out of those guys. So
I mean, the fact that we were in that game with 3 of our stars out, like, that's, to me, is a testament to the team and the bench and what you can do on any given night when you're starting 5 go cold. I mean, it's just interesting how well they did play. And I know people were like, well, Donovan, you need to get back. I'm like, dude, he is exhausted. I mean, that guy.
Don't blame him for anything. He put his life out there.
That guy, I don't think that guy could do anything else. He was probably on an oxygen tank and in a cold tub after that game. Like, I mean, I don't think he could have I don't think he could have done any more. Like, he basically was trying to be LeBron James out there in a basketball game and win the whole damn thing by himself. And he can probably do that on some nights, but like I don't know. It was a very fun, entertaining game to watch for, I would say, 47 out of the 60 minutes.
Yeah,
And the
I
last
agree.
13 minutes were just unbearable to watch as a Cavs fan. And
If,
and then
if
of course I was at a bar watching with Cavs fans, so of course the place went flipping livid. But
Yeah, if we're going to be optimistic about anything else, also in addition to everything else to be optimistic about, the Pacers really they stole 2 games. The first game they shoot just the lights out. They're shooting, under 50, just under 50% or whatever it was, especially from three. That's not sustainable. And then last night, it's just you're down basically 3 starters, two and a half
yeah, well,
starters. Just
well,
not
no,
sustainable.
let's call it for what it is. The Oklahoma City Thunder lost game 1. The Boston Celtics lost game 1. I mean, you can point fingers at the Cavaliers, but the cream of what everybody thinks of the crop is the rest of the league. They got thumped in the first game too, so it's not like this is an isolated case. So I think the Cavs play well on the road. So, and someone's like, well, they got to win both. I'm like, well, they don't. I mean, they got to win at least one out of the 2 and get back to Cleveland because if this series goes 7 games, I'm not mad. You know what I mean? Like it could go back and forth, but I think the Cavs just got to, like you said, they just got to be more physical, and they just at this point they just got to play one game at a time and not get ahead of themselves.
That's exactly it, guys. We want to talk to you about our newest partner. That is Mr. Hero. Here's a quick word from them.
SOS, I could use a hero right about now. My faith in love is upside down. H-E-R-O, where do we all go? SOS, I could use a hero right about now.
Mr. Hero's turning 60. We're proud to have served your favorite cravings for 60 years in celebrating what we do best. Thanks, Ohio.
I crave a hero.
And I just love that song, man. That is so catchy. But just to tell you a little bit about Mr. Hero, if you don't know this already, they are celebrating their 60th anniversary this year. There's 104 Mr. Hero locations in Northeast Ohio. Guys, get their app. They have a ton of great perks on that. Buy one, get one offer just for signing up, monthly coupons in the offers tab, surprise rewards, double points. You can also order food from the app. So just a ton that you can do there. So please be sure to check them out over at Mr. Hero. What a catchy song. Every time
and I say in the family 4-pack that we're giving away every single week on the podcast. You just got to be following us and following them on their socials. But who doesn't want to feed the family? So we're giving a family 4-pack away every single week. So that'll be a lot of fun. And by the way, we'll announce that winner tomorrow for the first week who won. So
all right, let's talk about the Cleveland Browns and football before we even get into the Browns. So one thing I do want to do tonight is go through and talk about some comps for all of the drafted players. And really what I want to do is more of a production-based ceiling and floor rather than like style of play. But I want to just go kind of around the league first. Some major news. George Pickens, Dustin, traded to the Dallas Cowboys. What is going on with the Pittsburgh Steelers?
I don't know. And I mean, what's going on with Aaron Rodgers? Like, I mean, what are they doing over there? Like, it's just the weirdest thing. Like, is he getting married? Like, there's all these weird things. Like, I was watching a podcast. I think it was maybe it's Pat McAfee, but Edelman or someone was talking about like he ended up meeting him at the Kentucky, the Derby, and he goes, yeah, I was there, and it was kind of there was no real signs of what the heck he was doing. Like nobody kind of figured it out, and like he's got this relationship thing that he's very it's very odd, and I'm all for it. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let them, let them be a grease fire. I'm okay with that. Like, but I don't get it. I don't understand it. And again, this to me, I feel like this actually benefited the Steelers more than it did the actual Cowboys because I'm not a big fan of that player in general, just the way he is in the league. But I mean, they gave up a 3rd-round pick. I mean, so. Now I know you got Metcalf there, but I don't know who else you got, after that. So it's just weird. Like who's going to throw him the damn ball? I mean, I will say this. I'm big on Will Howard, but I don't know if Will Howard can go in week 1, but.
Well, that's the thing. What I don't want for Will Howard, and don't get me wrong, like I can separate my Ohio State fandom to my NFL fandom, of course. And yeah. I hate the Pittsburgh Steelers and I wish them no success. But, as a Will Howard fan, to go in there and have just kind of a grease fire, like you just described, situation, you hate to see that for the player. Just like, I didn't like to see what they were doing with Justin Fields. I don't like that. But at the end of the day, it's enjoyable for Browns fans to see that Pittsburgh is kind of imploding a little bit. I'm surprised that it took them this long to get rid of George Pickens, if I'm being honest. I know that there was a little turmoil really kind of from the start. He's got – what's the deal with the Pittsburgh Steelers always having a player like that, whether it's Antonio Brown,
It's always
Le'Veon
a receiver. It's always a
George-
prima donna receiver.
always something. But also I think the Cowboys made a mistake. If history has told us anything, it is don't trade for those disgruntled receivers out of Pittsburgh.
Well, and let's be honest. That owner has been there since we've both been alive. Like, it's not like he doesn't know diva wide receivers for the Dallas Cowboys. He's had a few on there. You know what I mean? So it's like, you know what you're getting. Yeah. So, I mean, speaking of that, we did make a signing in the last week since our last show. I don't know if you want to get into that, but that's somebody that's well-traveled in the AFC North as well.
Yeah. The Browns did bring in and has officially signed Deontay Johnson. I think we did talk about this a little bit last week. I think it had just happened, but they officially signed him just the other day. I think as everybody, that's probably watching this can agree, this doesn't solve the receiver issue. This isn't a huge signing. Deontay Johnson was very productive during his time in Pittsburgh. And then once he left there, it really wasn't much from there. He went to Carolina for a brief moment. Then he went to the Baltimore Ravens, did not find success there. And I think, you can go to Baltimore. If you don't find success, maybe there's something up. Now, I know that they're not the most receiver-friendly system, but still, they needed a receiver, and it didn't really pan out. I think he kind of steps into that Elijah Moore role now that Elijah is now with the Buffalo Bills. Receiver is a position that I wish they would have addressed a little bit harder, a little bit more intentionally in the draft. I think that there was some good talent later in the draft that, maybe instead of taking 2 running backs or 2 quarterbacks, you get a receiver, but nonetheless they did, or they did not. I just wish that was a position that they would have targeted a little bit more, because I am a little bit nervous going into this season with the receiving core that we have. I have high hopes for Jerry Jeudy. I think he's going to have another great season. I really do. But it's kind of a drop off from there. So I don't know if we're going to get back to, 12 personnel rather than having 3 receivers on the field. We're going to have multiple tight ends on the field at the same time.
Yeah.
More heavy run game. I think that's what we're going to shift more towards. So that makes me feel a little bit better, but it's still, I don't know.
Is Amari Cooper signed with anybody, or is he still a free agent out there?
Yeah.
Interesting. Would you be open to him coming back?
Yeah, totally. I think so. I absolutely think so. I think Amari still has a lot left in him. I do. I wish that he would have had a better time in Buffalo, just because I thought that was a really good fit. It just didn't work out. But I would totally take Amari back in a heartbeat. I think he's a great player. I think his best years are behind him.
Of course.
Not going to come in and be the number 1 receiver, I wouldn't imagine. But, Amari Cooper, maybe he will be, knowing that type of player. So I would totally take him back. Gabe Davis is also available.
That's what I said. Yeah, he just got released, right? Today? Did he release? Yeah.
Yeah. That is sure. I'd be semi-intrigued by that. I think, if it comes at the right price.
The irony of if the Browns pick him up literally because of the trade, like literally, I'm assuming that's why he's expendable, obviously, because of Travis Hunter, and they said we're going to release him, but that'd be funny in some. Of course, that makes sense.
A lot of money from the Jags. He did. I would take Gabe Davis. I would, especially in that similar role, that Elijah Moore role. But that's just what that's kind of what I'm thinking. And George says Hollywood is available. Hollywood Higgins, yeah. No.
He's still in the league, isn't he? Is he still in the league?
Look, I loved Hollywood, but that was 6 years ago. That's
He was.
his best
I
years are
mean,
also. He
him
was
and
great.
Baker.
He was great when we had him, but
Yeah.
I would not take him currently. No.
Yeah, I was a big Hollywood Higgins fan just because of his relationship with Baker, and like he was kind of his scapegoat when he needed to get a touchdown, and he was kind of like that guy. And yeah, for 2 years he was it, man. Like he was it.
Yeah, I did. I liked him. I liked him a lot. But again, his best years are likely behind him. No longer in the league. Yes, he is retired. But all right, let's go ahead and bring David on. Let's talk a little about the health and wellness of this team and Deontay Johnson. Before we bring him on, this interview is brought to you by our friends over at Lorella Vineyards.
Here we go, Brownies Nation. Larry Lorella from Lorella Vineyards. Dustin Cook from Here We Go Brownies. We're here to talk a little bit about Here We Go Brownies wine. Dustin, let us know.
That's right, guys. The season wasn't what we wanted it to be, but the wine is amazing. Platinum winning, award winning wine. Here We Go Brownies wine. Come get it here at the winery or go to lorellavineyards.com. And remember, a portion of every single one of these bottles goes to the Greater Cleveland Food Bank to help those that are in need and hungry. That's right. Here we go, Brownies. Here we go.
Woof, woof.
All right, let's bring him on, Dr. David Ullery. Oh gosh, let's bring him on.
Perfect timing. Sorry
Hey,
about
David,
that. What was that? Hey, hi there. Hi guys. Sorry, the dogs are going crazy.
The good doctor, how are you, sir? How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing well. And the weather's beautiful here today. So anytime the sun comes out and it's in the 70s, that changes people's psyche and their mood. So
Yeah, absolutely. It's a little rainy here, but still warm. And I don't know. I don't mind a rainstorm every once in a while. So it's been a sleepy day for everybody down here.
I came from a place where hardly ever rained, and so like the whole idea of thunderstorms in the summer here are like a whole new thing for me. Like these massive thunderstorms that come through and just dump rain and then move on. I'm like, it kind of cleans the air up and kind of it's kind of a very different way of getting storms. But yeah, it's crazy. Midwest gets some gnarly storms.
I unmuted myself. That was chaos. Sorry about that. Ludo about goes through the door anytime anybody's here.
Yep.
We have a delivery or something? Is that the cucumber, David?
It's the cucumbers.
We got cucumbers at the grocery store, so we had to DoorDash it. David, I want to talk about a couple of things. I'm sure you were listening earlier. We want to talk about the Cavs. Of course, that is relevant. But, of course, want to start on the football side of things. The Browns do officially sign Deontay Johnson. He has gone through some injuries during the course of his career. I want to turn it over to you. What do we know?
Yeah. So, in terms of any kind of news or updates, that's really the only thing we have to talk about. Just briefly before we get there, no changes in terms of what we're seeing with JOK. I guess he kind of, was in some practice drills the other day, but who knows to what extent, we don't know. So future remains kind of undetermined at this point. But to answer your question, going over to Deontay Johnson. So I've been in the league 6 years now, and you guys talked about kind of how he's bounced around a little bit. Looking at Draft Sharks, they have a pretty cool injury analyzer as well as just a history tracker. And overall, he has had some minor issues here or there, but nothing that's really actually caused any serious or significant downtime. Nothing he's needed surgery for that, as far as I can determine. In October of 2020, he missed a game for a lumbar back sprain or pull. So probably just, pulled a muscle in his lower back at that point. In 2021, he had an unspecified knee injury, but only missed one game. And then really the big one, in 2023, he had a hamstring pull. He missed 5 games with that, was placed on the IR for it. We know how those things can linger. And so, he did have sick time off for that injury, but soft tissue injuries like that are common amongst especially skill players, and they don't tend to come back. You don't really hear of repeat offenders that often once you get through that season into the next season. And then he had like a chest rib sprain or pull in October of 24 and missed 1 game. So, they say that they qualify him as having a very high risk of injury this season. They actually say up to 80.3% chance of missing some amount of play time, but that says at least 2 quarters. Chance of injury per game is less than 10% overall. And they're projecting him to miss 2 games this season. But I don't know how they necessarily calculate that number, just because he's only ever missed more than 1 game in a season once. So, based on at least his history, Seems like he should be fairly durable and at least be able to, play as long as he's producing and meshing with the team, as you kind of alluded to.
That makes sense. I think that's so interesting that they're predicting how many games he's going to miss.
Yeah.
I mean,
That
what
is
the
a
hell?
cool, that is a cool tool though. That can do something like that based on the longevity of their career and what they've done. That's pretty interesting.
We should go back this off season and see if it's correct. Seeing if like assuming that Deontay Johnson plays a significant number of snaps for the Browns and like the entire season, go back and see if that's true. I'm curious to check on that. That's interesting.
I mean, it'd be cool to do that for, any number of players. Just make a little spreadsheet and say this is their percent chance of injury, their predicted number of games missed, and then look at that after the season and see if it was close to that or not.
All right, David, I have a project for us to work on for next week. That's interesting. I like it.
There's going to be Excel spreadsheets and data points. There it goes.
Yes, we've got 4 months. We got 4 months till September to get it done. So
we can just go by position. We can do one every show leading up to it, up to the season, and go
tied
position.
Tied in. Yeah.
All right, I like that.
That's
gives
good
us something to talk about.
But that's good content too. Yeah, I like that.
All right, that's good. As George says, let's talk more about the Cavs injuries. That's brutal. That was brutal last night. Dustin and I were talking about it. David, it's literally, as you know, all that I've thought about today. It's consumed me entirely. Let's talk about the Cavs.
Yeah, that's you and I were talking about it earlier today, and it's unfortunate that at times like these, you really see the toxic culture come out on Twitter. In particular, there was so much negativity surrounding the game last night and the outcome and the players who didn't play. And Allie and I, we were texting about it. It's so hard to know like what the true extent of these injuries is. At the end of the day, like we have to trust that these professional athletes who love the game, get paid to play the game, are making the best decisions for themselves and the team with their team physicians and trainers involved in those decisions. I mean, at the end of the day, even someone like Stephen A. Smith today was giving Darius Garland a ton of flack for not playing and suiting up. But I mean, Darius Garland is a very, very shifty, shifty, mobile, very creative player. And I think in someone like him, so let me back up a little bit. Darius has a toe injury, what we typically refer to as turf toe. And we've seen that in the NFL and in college and how long that can sideline a football player. And you think about a football player, they're wearing cleats, they can put steel shanks in their shoes. Like maybe they're not needing to do as much like bending and shiftiness as like a basketball player. But a basketball player is in tennis shoes on a hardwood court. I mean, it's a very different type of surface that you're playing in. And turf toe is no joke. I mean, you sprain the ligaments of one of the joints of your big toe, essentially, and you lose so much in terms of your push-off strength, your ability to cut, jump, run, sprint, all of that. And I mean, that's such a big part of Darius's game. Yeah. And at the end of the day, I understand, like, and this is one of the points we made, is that, we want players to be able to push through. It's the playoffs. Like, it's time to suck it up and play, but also it's only the second round. And the Cavs got this far relying on their depth at times. And the hope was that they could, steal one, so to speak, last night by relying on that same depth. Now, obviously it didn't pan out and like the perfect storm occurred for the Pacers to pull off that victory. But, the other factor that goes into that is the longevity thing. So if Darius played last night and let's say it helped them win, but then he ends up being done for the rest of the playoffs. So what good is that if he can't play the rest of the way? Now, obviously, these wins are important, and they have to find a way to turn it around and win these games. So it's a really delicate balance. But I have to believe that in a professional organization that has, endless resources when it comes to physicians, trainers, doctors, splints, taping, imaging, rehab, all of these different things at their disposal, I have to believe and trust that they make the right decision. To kind of go into the other players, Evan had what seems to be a pretty severe ankle sprain. They said Monday evening into Tuesday during practice, even Wednesday, he couldn't put his full weight down on the leg. I mean, that's no joke. I mean, ankle sprains come in all kinds of varieties, but when you're not able to actually fully put your weight down just walking in street clothes, I mean, how can you expect the guy to really suit up and run? And again, the conversation remains the same. I mean, just like Jason said, there's so many different opportunities, and we can go into more detail about what the real problem was last night. But to kind of wrap up with injuries, I mean, same thing for Evan. This is a soft tissue injury. It's a ligament injury, and it's something that can really become more serious if you don't treat it appropriately. They can injure themselves further, and they can sideline themselves for even longer. And for DeAndre, I was a little disappointed that he wasn't able to go. If it was not his shooting hand, I think he would have played. The issue is he dislocated his thumb on his shooting hand. I mean, we've all seen football players, quarterbacks with dislocated fingers on the sidelines, and like how grotesque it is. And then putting that back in, it's not pretty, it's not fun, and it hurts, and they swell up really badly and get very stiff. Now, it was his thumb. You think shooting motion not involved that much, but like at the end of the day, you got to grip the ball, you got to be able to dribble, all of these things that go into it.
Yes, you are, your thumb is involved in that position.
So, I mean, these are all, while they're different joints, different ligaments, they are all very similar injuries in the sense that they had a partial tear to one of their ligaments that is, risking further instability or more damage to those surrounding joints. So, to varying degrees, hopefully they can return and come back Friday and at least get one of them, because, we talked about it. If one of those guys, Jason, if one of those guys had played last night, the Cavs probably would. But then do we lose them for the rest of the playoffs? So it's tough. There's so much that goes into it, and you just I try to, and maybe I'm biased because I work in medicine, but I try to tend to put my trust in those doctors and physicians because people are making the comparison that Donovan's out there putting up 48 points and putting his entire body on the line. And while yes, that is true, he is out there. He was fatigued. He didn't get hurt. He doesn't have a ligament injury. He doesn't have a sprain or a dislocation. Like, he is out there putting his body on the line because he's healthy and can do it. These guys are not healthy. They're not hurt. They have injuries. There's a difference. And so I get a little upset when people really criticize these professional athletes for saying that they're sitting on the sideline laughing and joking when they should have been playing for their team.
Well, let's just tie this into the Browns. Like, let's paint the picture for the Browns on this. A couple of years ago, Anthony Schwartz runs the wrong route. Baker Mayfield throws an interception, makes an awkward tackle on a player, and plays through that injury the rest of the season. And it ultimately it impacted his career so much. That was a team that the year prior they went to, and they were a play away from the AFC Championship game. And the next year have high hopes. One weird thing happens. He kind of tries to fight through it, and look what that did to the rest of his career. Now, he's since recovered. He found a great landing spot in Tampa Bay, but for a while, things were pretty rocky for Baker. And it just goes to show that if you're not taking care of your body and you're not making the right decision for you, although some fans may find that to be selfish, like, hey, just toughen up and play through it, this can not only impact the rest of the season or the situation at hand, but the remainder of their career.
Yeah, Alan, that's a good point. But you're right. The one thing that is lost in all the Twitter garbage and chatter is like these guys at the end of the day, and I'm assuming, David, you talk about this all the time with what you do for a living, you kind of have that final say with that person. Like, hey, I would advise you don't do A, B, or C, right? Like at the end of the day, like you are not ready for A, B, or C. And if they're listening to that physician and those folks on the team, and then to your point, they know it's going to be a detriment to their rest of their play this year and beyond, I think you have to set that person down because, especially basketball, because it's just a physical game. It's up and down the court. It's very different than football. But it's interesting, like people don't get into the minutia of and realize that, they're at the end of the day listening professionals if they should go out there or not. Like, and I use the example, we love Bernie Kosar, but despite wanting to win for the city, the guy's got 50 plus concussions in his life, right? Like, and today he's suffering because of that, because he should have been sat down and said, no, you're out for the rest of the game and maybe the next couple of weeks. And now with medicine and all the things that are put into that and safeguards, I just think it's the right thing to do for the player's career, their health. And so when they're not playing sports anymore, they can live a normal life. At the end of the day is how I kind of look at it, because it could be to where you can't even have a normal functioning life. Hello, Joe Thomas, not to get on a tangent here, but played the position for 13 years, right? The best at the position, some would argue. He had a hip replacement at 40 years old. Not very many men are getting a hip replacement at 40. They're getting them in their 50s and 60s. It's the wear and tear that he did on his body and destroyed that hip, I guess, you know, is what I'm trying to get at in the big scheme of things.
Yeah. It was just really unfortunate to have all three of them out. But if we, like we said at the start of this, and not to get too much on the Cavs here, I know this is a Brown show, but you know, Ty Jerome makes one more shot. You know, what was he?
No.
1 for 12 on the night, 1 for 16, something like that. It was crazy. These depth players, I think you need more out of them in these situations. But totally unfortunate that these three guys were out. However, I mean, Jason's point here, you know, they had everything that should have won the game. They needed to miss a 3-point shot, get the rebound, and hit a 3 to beat the Cavs with essentially 3 starters out. So, David, I do want to talk about the dislocated thumb. You know, like what's the treatment for that? Is it just popping it in, like, and then kind of rest, or what is that? What is that like?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, yes. The majority of finger dislocations like that, as long as they can be reduced and popped back into place, treatment is typically non-operative. You know, to dislocate a joint, something has to tear, something has to break or be injured. But there's so many ligaments and so much stability around a finger, and fingers stiffen up so quickly that it's pretty rare for there to be persistent instability in a situation like that. Now, certainly depending on the direction of the dislocation, that is important. If it's kind of forward and backwards, I guess forward or backward this way, that's typically a little bit more tolerable in terms of like long-term stability and not needing surgery. But if it's more sideways this way and you tear either the ligament here, the radial collateral ligament, or the ligament on this side, the ulnar collateral ligament, that can lead to a little bit more chronic instability, which is typically something that may require surgery. I don't know the details of exactly what his dislocation is, but typically when you bend in this direction, it usually doesn't actually fully dislocate, whereas his was. And so I think it's safe to assume that it was just a kind of a standard classic dislocation, either out the front or the back, that should just need a little bit of time. And so, you know, give it, you know, now it'll be 4 days come Friday, almost 5 days come Friday. That should be enough time where he can at least feel a little bit more comfortable, maybe more pain relief, and with some taping, be able to at least use that to push off and pass and shoot and things like that. Might be on kind of a pitch count, so to speak. But ultimately, this is something that he can definitely come back and play with, and might even be as early as Friday. Similarly, I think given what happened last night, Darius will be playing on Friday. Evan, I think, is the one that probably remains up in the air, just because the ankle is a little bit more fresh of an injury and a little bit different than a thumb, because the thumb you're not running on. Again, if ankles, similarly though, if it's a grade 1 or grade 2 sprain, not unreasonable for him to be taped up very securely, maybe get, you know, some sort of, you know, shot before the game, and then get out there and play and see what he can do. But again, maybe in a limited manner. But that's all that they might need. I mean, if they had someone in a limited manner last night, it could have been totally different. So I anticipate probably seeing at least 2 of them back on Friday. And I think the most likely would be Darius and DeAndre, and then Evan might be the one that's kind of up in the air still.
Right. That is
Question on that David, without knowing too much based on what you saw, something like Mobley, if it is, you know, like it is what they're saying it is, when would be the soonest you would think you would see someone like Mobley back?
Yeah, I mean, if it's as serious as like kind of they're describing it to be, where he couldn't put his full weight down, again, part of that is probably just from the acute swelling. Sometimes swelling happens even with a mild sprain that is just so much your body can't really like tolerate it. So if they're able to get that under control, I mean, there's a chance you could see him as soon as Friday. Now, you know, someone like that though, where it really was like, hey, like he can't even like put his weight on it, it's likely at least an intermediate or grade 2 sprain. So it's going to be probably a week. So maybe Sunday, game 4. But you know, it's so hard to predict, because if it's a high ankle sprain, that's an even longer and more serious injury,
Right.
we talked about on the show before. But there hasn't necessarily been, I guess, discussion towards that. So I think Sunday probably at the earliest for Evan, but maybe he'll surprise us and be ready Friday.
Well, that is something to look forward to. So, all right, David, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it as always. We always get a little smarter when we talk to you. Go Cavs and go Browns.
Go Cavs,
Browns,
go
and
Browns.
Guardian. And guard.
And
And guards.
that is Dr. David Ullery, the husband of the program, the medical moment brought to you by our friends over at Lorello Vineyards. We're going to get into the Browns now. Of course, that's what we're here to do. But Dustin, I'm going to turn it over to you first. We've got Lady Caroline to talk about.
Yeah, guys, if you want to go out on Lady Caroline, they are ready for you to join them for lunch or dinner cruises. The weather has broken here in Cleveland, and they're excited to go out and enjoy those cruises. They do the lunch or the dinner cruises. We'll actually be doing a cruise sometime this summer, a lunch cruise, where it'll be a Here We Go Brownies cruise and invite people out. We'll have something out on that very soon to talk about that. But yeah, if you're looking to go out with like a date, family, take the kids out. It's a 2-hour roughly boat ride around the greater Cleveland area out there on the lake through the Cuyahoga. It's pretty cool. So if you get a chance, take your family out on that. And of course, if you're down there, check out the Greater Cleveland Aquarium. That's right, the shark tank, all the different species that are down there. Great time to go check that out. We are actually going to be giving away a whole entire annual pass for a family to go check out the Greater Cleveland Aquarium. That's very cool. So look for that. And look for, in the near future, a $100 gift card to Lady Caroline. So you can use that towards a lunch or dinner cruise. $100 gift card that goes a long way to going out and having a fun time out on the lake.
Awesome. Sounds like a great time.
There it is.
Let's I want to do some comps for these rookies. Like I said, I want to kind of go through maybe a comparison in terms of their production rather than maybe how they play skill wise. So I want to go through each of these, kind of a ceiling and a floor. So I want you, Dustin, to pick other rookies at that same position or former rookies, that rookie season that they may have had or that they had, and the production. So we're just going to go in order here. And I'll kick it off with Mason Graham. I think for me, and again, this is production, not style of play. My ceiling for him is the production from Jalen Carter for the Eagles. I think that you could see something like that out of Mason Carter in year one, especially next to Myles Garrett. This is a pretty ferocious defensive front. I think that we could see some insane production, a ton of pressures out of Mason Graham. But my floor for him, and this is a pretty high floor because Christian Barmore also had a great rookie season. Now he's kind of leveled off a little bit, but a great rookie season. I really do think that you get Mason Graham is kind of in the middle of those two players. And I think even if you just take, the average of those two guys, Browns have a great player, Mason Graham.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point about Mason Graham. And, I'm new to Ohio State football and absorbing it and watching more of these games. And I just go back to the Michigan game and the Ohio State game, right? And how he was kind of a menace for the Ohio State Buckeyes in that game. And that he put a lot of pressure up front. And I think that bodes well for the Browns. Again, I don't know where the floor would be for someone like Mason Graham, because I think he's going to be a day one starter. So to me, he's already above the fold in that way. The ceiling on a guy like that. I mean, the sky could be the limit on a guy like that, to be quite honest. Like the ceiling on someone like Mason is because there's a lot of people in the league you could compare him to, but I mean, I don't know. It's interesting. He's an interesting player at the end of the day, and I don't know. He intrigues me because I think he'll be a good player. I just don't know how great a player he's going to be, I guess.
Okay. If you had to give me two players, two tackles, I mean, that's the exercise. We're going to go through all of these here and kind of, give a ceiling and a floor. If not, we'll move on to the next. But I agree with you. Like, I think that you're getting a great player. He's a potential blue chip player, Mason Graham. And if he's in the middle of a Jalen Carter and a Christian Barmore, I mean, sign me up for that all damn day.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't think of any players that jump out, to be honest with you, like a floor or a ceiling. I mean, you bring up some really good examples. The Eagles guy, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. But I just can't think of any floor or ceiling guys that in recent drafts that come to mind.
Okay, moving on to the second pick for the Cleveland Browns, and that is the linebacker Carson Schwessinger. I think I'll go first here. For me, I think he is going to be a key piece for this defense. Still remains to be seen what the deal is with Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. But given the guys that are in that room, of course, some potential upside with Mouman Diabate. I mean, you still have some guys in that room, but I think that he's going to come in and be a day one starter. I really do. My upside in terms of production for Carson here is Jack Campbell. I think that he can have a similar rookie season in terms of production and just number of snaps that Jack Campbell did in Detroit. Now, my floor for him, I really kind of go back and forth because there's not a ton of rookie linebackers that have a ton of just production. Jack Campbell was the first one that came to mind. Now, for me, my floor is maybe somebody like Devin White or even a player like JOK, his rookie season, who was more of a rotational piece. They're not the same type of player. And everybody, as you know here, that's not the goal of this exercise. But I do think that in terms of production and number of snaps, that would be the floor. I think that he will see more play time, just anticipating that JOK won't be out there. So that's kind of where I'm at with him. I think like Mason Graham, he's going to fall somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I'll agree with you on your floor. But I didn't know a lot about this player, so I did a lot more studying because obviously linebackers always have been a need for this team for several years. Mm-hmm. But I thought there were some interesting comparisons to this player, that he could be a Clay Matthews. And I know that's saying a lot for the Cleveland Browns, but he plays similar to how Clay Matthews played the position for the Cleveland Browns. And when I looked at some of the comp, I was like, wow, like he does kind of play that kind of style. And I thought that was a very interesting comparison. So yeah, the ceiling could be like, we could find our next great linebacker because I think we also got him at a steal where we got him in the draft. So my ceiling on a guy like this could be like a Clay Matthews type of player, that hybrid, kind of guy that can go in there and be a menace to the quarterback. And you saw that when you looked at the tape on him, the way he would disguise himself and then just get through a hole and then he's sacking that quarterback. I mean, like he's and correct me if I'm wrong, was he a walk-on? Was he not I mean, to me, that just blows my mind that a kid that was literally a walk-on then earns a scholarship that then be drafted in the National Football League. And the way he's played, especially this last year, I think we got a lot of extreme value at this position. And again, we don't know JOK, so he may end up being day one starter. I mean, this guy could literally maybe plug and play day one.
Yeah. What about your floor? And remember, this is the comparison. Sure, he can turn into a Clay Matthews, but I want to talk about these players in their rookie seasons. So the rookie production that we're getting out of these players. Who's your floor for Carson Schwessinger?
Well, who are the two that you mentioned? There was one of the two that I agree
I said Jack Campbell and Devin White.
I would say Devin White. I think that would probably be my floor. And then obviously Clay would be my ceiling for someone like this.
Okay. For
player wise. But yeah, that would be where I would be on that.
Okay. All right. Moving on. Quinshon Judkins. Dustin, I'll let you kick this one off.
Ooh. Wow, this is so the floor would be, let's see, this will be fun. Who would be the floor on an episode? Richardson, the running back that we traded away. That would be first round guy that we thought was great, and then we got rid of him because he was terrible. And the ceiling on a guy like this, Nick Chubb in his rookie season, I put up there. I'm trying to think if there's another person that would in a rookie season. Maybe an Eric Metcalf. He had a great rookie season. Some guys that I can think, that did well in their rookie season. But those two, I mean, if we could get what Nick Chubb did in his rookie season, I mean, that would be amazing. But I don't know. But again, I don't know what this is going to look like because we drafted 2 running backs. So
yeah,
it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. So for me, and again, this is rookie production.
Richardson is who I was referring to, by the way. Yeah, Terrell Richardson.
With what you're getting out of Quinshon, he is a very, kind of prototypical bell cow back. He can be your every down back. He can make some moves, in the pass game as well. But really, he's going to be your north-south runner. And for me, I mean, I agree. In terms of a ceiling, I think that he could have a Nick Chubb style, in his rookie season, production in his rookie season. I really do, especially knowing that going into this season, without knowing who the quarterback is going to be for this offense and getting back to this Kevin Stefanski wide zone type of offense, he's going to have a ton of carries. He's going to have a ton of opportunities. Now, my floor for him, and this is a pretty high floor. Again, my floor is Josh Jacobs. Again, a ton of production in Vegas or Oakland at the time. Vegas, I'm not sure during the timing, but nonetheless had great production for the Raiders. So I think when we're looking at this, he's going to see a ton of snaps. He's going to be on the field quite a lot because he's your every down back. Of course, we'll get to Dylan Sampson here in a second, but I think both of these guys have a very high upside. Moving on, Harold Fannin Jr. I'll kick this one off, Dustin. Great value where they got him. He is the Yak King, if you will, just like an explosive player after the catch. And because of that, I think that, what the Browns want to do offensively, I wouldn't be surprised to see a Sam Laporta type of rookie season out of Harold Fannin Jr. Of course, different type of player, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's a kind of a tight end situation, 1A, 1B with David Njoku. I could see how that would happen. I don't necessarily predict that's how that's going to happen. My floor for him in his rookie season is maybe somebody like Kyle Pitts, who had a ton of upside coming out of Florida. I predicted him to be the offensive rookie of the year, and it just hasn't panned out for him. But nonetheless, he will see a ton of time for the Atlanta Falcons in his rookie season. So I think, again, like every single one of these, it's kind of somewhere in the middle. Dustin.
Yeah, and remind me, I'm thinking of floor. Who is the guy that we drafted a few years ago at tight end for the Browns?
When?
In the last 5 years, 5 or 6. It's pretty recent, the tight end.
David Njoku.
No. It was another guy that played for, I can't remember, but it was a tight end that we drafted.
Okay. And, Seth DeValve, Gary Barnage. Gary Barnage. So I was trying to think who that was. But so Gary Barnage would be like the floor, like he would be a serviceable tight end, right? But a guy like, this kid, he was the entire offense at Bowling Green. Literally, he was a one-man wrecking crew. He had great games against Division I schools that he went up against, was very successful. So my ceiling for a guy like this, because he's going to be basically 1A, 1B, you're right, because of David Njoku, that's going to have an asterisk, right? Because we don't know how much he's going to be on the field. So, gosh, what would his ceiling be? Maybe like David Njoku. Well, yeah, maybe like David Njoku in his rookie year, because we all know that David Njoku got off to a little bit of a slow start in Cleveland. At one point, wanted to be traded, right? Like there was this whole discussion where we sat there at nauseum and said, "David, do not leave. This is the best offense for you. You need to stay." So maybe David Njoku in maybe his rookie year, because I don't know how much this. I know he's going to be a part of this offense. I just don't know how many snaps he's going to get compared to David Njoku. So it'll be interesting. Cool. Guys, if you don't have Stadium Mustard in your kitchen this season, you're doing it wrong. The iconic brand, the iconic taste, full love from ballparks to backyards and everywhere in between. Stadium Mustard is a smooth brown mustard rich in both taste and tradition. By the way, it's loved by millions, so be sure to head on over to stadiummustard.com to shop now. Also want to tell you guys about our friends over at City Barbecue. If you're just trying to figure out what you're going to have for lunch, dinner, even breakfast, head on over to City Barbecue. They can cater your events. They have award-winning barbecue, award-winning sides and sauces. So please be sure to go check them out. They do it right at City Barbecue. Pretty damn good. All right, moving on here. And we can go kind of quickly here, Dustin, is Dylan Gabriel. Let's start with him. This is interesting. We don't know what the quarterback situation is going to look like. So really hard to speculate.
Yeah,
which one's
better? We don't even know. Hopefully he's on the roster, but yeah, this is going to be quite close.
So we'll go kind of quickly over the quarterbacks just because there's no way of telling. There really isn't at this point in time until we know what the deal is with rookie minicamp. So right now, Dylan Gabriel, I think an incredibly accurate quarterback, big arm. Of course, the size isn't necessarily there, but big time production, just a rocket for an arm. He's very accurate. I am growing more and more in like with Dylan Gabriel as each day goes on. And Dylan Gabriel was always the guy. The Browns were open about that. It was Cam Ward, and then it was Dylan Gabriel. That was their number 2 quarterback in this draft class. So I think if he does, let's caveat with this, if he does win the starting job and he starts every game this season, I could see a world where he has and I can understand why this is maybe a little bit of a lazy take, a Tua-like season. I know they're both lefties. That's not what I'm getting at here. But in terms of his mobility, he is an athlete, not overly athletic, has a pretty big arm, accurate enough, a good enough playmaker. I could see a world where he is similar in production as Tua. Now, the floor is somebody like Bailey Zappi, who gets a couple of games here and there in his rookie season due to injury, or maybe he wins the starting job late and comes in and is decent. Maybe he'll win you a game or two, but that's pretty much it, and is in a backup role for the remainder of it. So that's kind of my ceiling and floor. And I think with all of these quarterbacks on the roster, the ceiling is, wow, they're the next franchise quarterback, and the floor is they're out of the league by next year.
Yeah.
That's fair for all of these, I think.
Yeah.
Dustin, what do you think?
So for me, it's actually on our roster. Now that I'm sitting here thinking it out loud, for someone like Dylan, the floor could be a Kenny Pickett. Comes out, high expectations. He's, to be the starter for this football team. According to a lot of reports, he was the second guy on the Browns draft board behind Cam Ward, right? So that says a lot for the Cleveland Browns. And, he ends up not panning out. So he's a serviceable, really good backup, right? I mean, that could be now the ceiling on a guy like this, Russell Wilson. I think, he doesn't have the height, but he has the skill set. He can get the ball out. He's got a strong arm. He can move around. That's a lot, that's the first 8 or 10 years of Russell Wilson's career, right? Like he made a lot of things happen. So, I mean, you mentioned Tua, and then, Russell Wilson, similar in some ways to that, but something like a rookie season for Russell Wilson would be my take.
Moving on to Dylan Sampson here. Again, really, I think great value pick here with Dylan Sampson, the running back out of Tennessee. I love the idea of having Dylan Sampson and Quinshon Judkins in the backfield. Really solid 1-2 punch. Now, I know they're both rookies, so it's hard to really project here, but, just in terms of the production, I could see a world where Dylan Sampson has a Jahmyr Gibbs-like rookie season. And I say that because of how the Lions use their 2 running backs, especially Gibbs' rookie season. And they split the carries. I can see where that happens for Quinshon and Dylan Sampson. I can use Jahmyr Gibbs for my ceiling for both of those players, for Quinshon and Dylan Sampson. I think they're similar in speed, just their willingness to kind of put a shoulder down and run north to south. Dylan Sampson, a little bit more likely to catch the ball out of the backfield, makes more elusive plays. Quinshon is really your just north-south guy. But my floor for Dylan Sampson right away is somebody like Zach Charbonnet, where he comes in, beside or, in a rotation with Kenneth Walker Jr. and is impactful and has a decent enough rookie season where, he's putting up a handful of touchdowns on the season. But I really do think that the way that the Browns want to operate offensively this season, you're going to see a lot of production out of these 2 backs. So if that's my floor, I'm okay with it. What do you think?
Yeah, and for me, I'll keep it, again, I'm kind of stay with the theme here within the organization. The low, probably like a Mike Ford, a serviceable running back for the Cleveland Browns. It gets, Jerome Ford gets the job done, right, at the end of the day. And then my ceiling, from a Brown standpoint, I want him to be Kareem Hunt. That 1-2 punch of Judkins and Kareem is when the Browns were their most successful, when they wore down teams in the fourth quarter with that 1-2 punch. So I would kind of, if talking just Browns, what that would look like, that's who I would see as, like a ceiling and a floor would be those 2 running backs that we've seen very recent, obviously. And before that with Kareem Hunt, like I almost feel that's where the Browns were going with this in this draft. If we can get 2 really great running backs, since it's just such a deep running back class, can we emulate what we used to have with Kevin Stefanski's offense and that 2 back just win the game in the trenches in the fourth quarter. I think they kind of had a little bit of that mindset. Like, we need to get back to the way we were. And oh, by the way, these are young legs, right? Both of these guys are young legs, so they're going to be able to put in the reps from day one. And I think there's some mindset to that.
I want to tell you about our friends over at True Fan Travel. True Fandom is their passion. Think of them as your ultimate sports road trip buddy, all about bringing you closer to the heart-pounding action of your favorite away games, whether you're cheering from the stands or soaking in the local vibes to make sure every trip is packed with those I was there moments. So grab your gear, make some memories together with True Fan Travel. Please be sure to go check them out. And we'll go ahead and finish here, Dustin, with Shedeur Sanders. And again, like Dylan Gabriel, there's no way of knowing who the starters
are. Most player on the
right. There's just no way of knowing. So ceiling for him in terms of rookie season production, and again, production only, not style of play, really is somebody like a Baker Mayfield. I think that he can come in and be accurate enough to win some games, just like Baker did. He sat a couple of games behind Tyrod, comes in, flash, had enough weapons around him to be exciting and give you something to look forward to going into the next year. I mean, Shedeur's or Dylan or Kenny or Joe, I think a lot of us know probably isn't going to be the answer this year, but maybe giving us something to be hopeful for next. My floor for him, somebody like, and pretty much any backup. Kyle Trask maybe comes to mind. Davis Mills, somebody that is, well, Davis Mills played a lot his rookie year, but
Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson played a lot his rookie year. Somebody that does not play a lot their rookie year.
True, yeah.
This is not about this is not about skill. It's just about the production in this exercise. So I think, just somebody in a backup role or out of the league or off the team the next year or two. That's the floor here. So unfortunately, no way of knowing. Dustin, what do you think?
Well, here's the crazy thing. Like, this exercise really makes a fan think, right? Because you listen to what people think and you look at the landscape of this roster, and there is a real possibility where Shedeur Sanders could be starter day one. I mean, that's not like crazy talk. I mean, that is possible if he rises to the top. So I do like your comparison to someone like Baker Mayfield. That was kind of where my mind was going, just because he didn't start. It was Tyrod in there. He had to come in and win some games for the Browns, and then that was the rest of the history. But yeah, I mean, ceiling, I think I looked at the stat. He was the most accurate quarterback of all time in college football. Think about that. That's crazy how long they've been playing college football. I mean, the ceiling, he could be Joe Burrow. I know that's crazy to say, but I mean, if he actually, has a good enough line that keeps him upright, like, we may have found the magic. We just, and that's the thing that's crazy about this is if you look at draft boards, at worst they thought second round, right? But he goes in the fifth, right? He's got the tangibles to make the right throws. He fits into a Kevin Stefanski offense. Like, yeah, the ceiling could be really high on a guy like this, or he could just be a backup in the league that's just trying to find a starting job somewhere, right? We don't really know. I did watch a lot of Colorado football. They had 1 win season and 9 wins, and they had a terrible offensive line. Terrible. It was atrocious. And he still won 9 games. So I don't know. I think this is going to be the most intriguing thing to watch with the Cleveland Browns. It is going to be must-see television at training camp over the next couple of months, because this is going to be a real test to see. And by the way, Shedeur has turned around a lot of football programs. I do not doubt his confidence to come in here and say, let me be the guy. Let me show you that I can lead this team to the promised land. I feel like he could do that. And I think we could all be shocked. Yeah. Now, that's saying a lot, I know, but again, we don't know. We really don't know what's going to happen. So that's the exciting thing that I look forward to. We just don't know what's going to happen.
Just want to highlight a couple of things here, and we've only got a few minutes, so I'll go very quickly. April commenting here, why isn't Chubb coming back? Now, I do want to say, and I agree, April, I want to maybe just a small piece of optimism. It's a prayer. But with the restructuring of Jerome Ford's contract, I know immediately a lot of people were saying, well, this definitely indicates that Chubb will not be back. I do tend to look at this with somewhat of a different lens. I think that it actually opens the door for a few more opportunities and possibilities for Jerome Ford, whether that means he's a tradable asset. Another team will be willing to take on that contract, meaning that Chubb can, in fact, come back.
Right.
I think this organization has made a lot of mistakes. We've been candid about that. I think that they would be, if they don't bring Nick Chubb back, and I think that, like, it's just a man, it's just a slap in the face to the fans. I really do. I agree with you, April, here. His career isn't over. I do think that Nick, given the opportunity, will be a productive back in the league. Now, I don't think he will be the Nick Chubb of 2 years ago. I don't. But I still think that he will be serviceable. I think getting rid of him would be a huge mistake. I agree with you. I am just somewhat optimistic that maybe the restructuring of that Jerome Ford contract is a move to do so rather than the other way around. But I don't trust this organization to make the right decision. I never have, and I don't know that they ever will.
Let me ask you this. Would the Browns ever, in your mind, because I know they've done this with people with bigger salaries, do you see in a world where they just release Ford and sign Nick Chubb?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, because it's only $1.5 million. I know that. I mean, that's a lot of money, but it's also not a lot of money.
Yeah, I could see that. I don't think they will. I don't. But I don't think it's crazy to have. I mean, we've done it before. We have 4 running backs in the room. Like, that's not crazy. I really don't think that it is. It might be crazy if you have 5 quarterbacks on the roster and then also have 4 running backs. You might say, okay, what are we doing here? But I mean, if we really are sitting here saying we think that the Browns offensively are going to get back to this wide zone situation, I think having all the help that they can in that running back room is only going to benefit them. I really do. And if I can just envision it, I can see a world where Nick Chubb goes somewhere like Chicago or, God forbid, the Steelers or anything like that, and just lights the world on fire. I can see that happening in my brain, and I just want the Browns to not allow that. But I think if the Browns really are going to do what we think they're going to do offensively, having Nick Chubb in that running back room is I mean, it only benefits you. It only does. He's been a favorite. I would hate to see him go. I don't trust him.
And to your point, with someone like Nick Chubb, if you bring him back, you don't have to wear him out, right? Because now you do have Judkins and these guys, and you maybe have a 3-headed monster where, hey, at the goal line, maybe I do want Nick Chubb to be that guy, right? That's been there 100 times and bowls it in for the touchdown. Like, you're right. That's not crazy. Do you see a world where they just take Mike, or I keep calling him Mike, Jerome Ford out and move him over to like kickoff returns or something like that? Do you think there's a world where that is even a possibility? And like you release Pierre Strong? I mean, like, is that even a thing?
And I see, like, in April's point here, like, who is Jerome compared to Chubb? And at that point, like, why are we picking Jerome Ford over Nick Chubb? And I think that you can go out and have somebody like Mike Woods as a return specialist. You can have guys dedicated for that solely. But to pick Jerome as the pure running back over Nick Chubb, I think is shocking. Even though with the injuries, I know that I would still put my money on Chubb if it were up to me, but I don't think it is.
Well,
so
and he's good for that room too. At the end of the day, right? From like a character guy, like you want a guy like that in there that's been through the trenches.
Yeah, and look, the Browns have asked the fans, man, to really split their morals sometimes rooting for this team. If you want to sell tickets and get kind of that fan buyback, this is a very easy thing to do to get that. I think if you bring back Chubb, you're going to continue to sell tickets. People are going to show up and be enthusiastic, even though Nick Chubb probably won't be the Nick Chubb that we're used to. I would imagine that Dylan Sampson and Quinshon Judkins will be on the depth chart ahead of him week 1, if that were to be the case. But still, even in a more limited role, having Nick is, in my opinion, more beneficial than having Jerome personally. But, at the end of the day, I just want
for many reasons, not just football. Exactly.
Yeah, that's just me. Dustin, before we wrap up, can you tell our listeners about Lake Erie Distillery?
That's right, guys. Lake Erie Distillery. Amazing time we had out there a couple weeks ago. Look forward to going back out there on May 31st for another event. You'll have some more information on that soon. But yeah, check out Burning River Whiskey. That's right. Also check out Dill Pickle Vodka. Also check out all the amazing other bourbons they have there. But right there in Willoughby, Ohio. And by the way, if you can't make it out to Willoughby, just go look for it at any of your local Northeast Ohio liquor stores where you can find that, or ask for it at your local watering hole or bar or restaurant where you partake on an evening out in this beautiful time of year in Northeast Ohio.
Yeah. And also our friends over
guys.
in Ohio. Dustin, take it away.
We Bleed Ohio, guys. If you guys have not checked them out, go over to We Bleed Ohio. They have amazing football, basketball, all different kinds of themes, different things that you want to look at there. Also, our Here We Go Brownies gear is there, the T-shirts and the hoodies. You can purchase those there. But go to We Bleed Ohio. They do a lot of cool, different themed. They're always dropping new designs, so it's really cool. That's over at We Bleed Ohio. So go check them out.
Yeah, there you go. There you have it. And before we wrap up, I want to play another version of my favorite song.
SOS, I could use a hero right about now. My faith in love is upside down. HERO, where do we all go? SOS, I could use a hero right about now. My faith in love is upside down. HERO, I crave a hero.
All right.
That is pretty. it just makes you want to have a sandwich. It's like, yeah, I want it right now.
I know. There you go. There you have it. All right. Thanks everybody for joining us. We appreciate you. Stay safe, stay healthy. And as always, Browns fans, go Browns.
Go Browns.